Hey everybody, Mr. Kobe here, and I'm just doing a little stay-at-home science experiment with some stuff I have around home. And what I'm showing you here are mung beans, M-U-N-G, and if you've ever had bean sprouts before, well, those are mung beans, and you can see they're real small beans. They're only about half a centimeter in size, but what's really useful with mung beans is that they grow pretty quickly. Within a couple days, we should be able to see some growth. And what we're going to do is we're going to grow some mung beans and expose them to a variety of different conditions. So the first thing I've done is I have basically just a Tupperware bowl filled with some water. And I've already taken this other paper towel and I've already dipped it into the water to get it moist and get it wet. And I'm going to take these 5 mung beans and just place them onto the water dampened paper towel. And hopefully the water will provide, the water and the moisture that they need to grow. And I'm going to just fold the paper towel over the top, and to prevent the mung beans from drying out, I'm going to place them into a sealed Ziploc storage bag, plastic sandwich bag here. So I'm going to stop recording for a moment because I need both my hands to do this. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I just got done placing the water dampened paper towel with the mung beans trapped inside and sealed it into a little sandwich bag. And so this is going to represent our control group. Basically, it's just 5 mung beans on a water dampened paper towel with the bag sealed so the paper towel doesn't dry out. And so all I'm going to do is place this into a dark cabinet in, somewhere in my home. And every 48 hours, we're going to check its growth. So I'm going to stop recording right now, and I'm going to move on to some of the factors that we're going to be experimenting with. Okay, so the first factor we are going to expose a different set of mung beans to is going to be coffee. What effect might coffee have on the growth of mung beans? So here I have 5 different mung beans. Again, you can see they're only about a half a centimeter in size. And like the last time, I have my container of water here, and I've already taken a paper towel and dipped it into the paper towel, and I've moistened this paper towel. So I'm going to take the mung beans, and just like we saw before, I'm going to place the mung beans onto this water dampened paper towel. So far, my control group is shaping up to look like my experimental group. Now it's going to differ once I add the coffee. So like I did a moment ago, I'm going to fold over the paper towel, kind of trapping the beans on the inside, and I'm going to place this water dampened paper towel into a Ziploc sandwich bag. I'm going to pause and do that again because I need both hands to do this, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and placed these different mung beans into a storage sandwich bag. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add coffee. And so I just brewed up a cup of coffee right here, and I've poured some of the coffee into this smaller dispenser here. And all I'm going to do is lift open the sandwich bag. Let's see if I can do this with only one hand. And I'm going to just pour the coffee into the sandwich bag. Not easy to do with only one hand. I'm sure this makes for a captivating video to watch. Can he do it? Here we go. Okay. So there we go. I've added the coffee to the inside, and I'm going to close up my sandwich bag. And there we go. So now this is one of the factors that we are going to compare to our control group. So like the control group a few moments earlier, I'm going to simply place this into a storage cupboard, and we'll check its growth every probably 48 hours. Well, what's the next factor we're going to experiment with. Okay, so the next variable we are going to experiment with is a cold temperature. And again, I've got 5 mung beans. You can see again they're about only a ½ centimeter in size. And I have my container of water here, and I've already dipped this paper towel into the water. And so I'm just going to transfer the 5 mung beans onto my water dampened paper towel, like I've done in the control group a moment earlier, and like I did with the coffee group a moment earlier as well. So the 5 beans are on the paper towel, and I'm going to fold over the top, again, pat it down, and that'll help to trap the beans in there, so like if I pick them up, they don't fall over, on my kitchen floor. So like I've done before, I'm going to pause in a moment and put this water dampened paper towel into a sandwich baggie. I'll be right back. Okay, so now that the paper towel with the 5 mung beans is trapped inside of the sandwich bag, I'm going to store this in one of my drawers in the refrigerator. And the cold temperature, we'll see if that affects the growth of the mung beans. And just like the coffee beans and just like the control experiment, we'll check for growth about every 48 hours. So what's the next factor we're going to experiment with? Okay, so the next factor we are going to grow some mung beans in is Diet Cola. And I'm sure for copyright reasons, I'm not allowed to show you a picture of the can and the brand of soda that I actually use, but in my little container here is some Diet Cola that I had a can of at home. Now, when I look at the mung beans, again, you can see that, yeah, there's 5 of them, and again, just like all the others, they're about a ½ centimeter in size. Again, in my container of water, I've already dampened a paper towel. So I'm going to transfer these 5 mung beans onto this water dampened paper towel. And like you've seen me do with the others, I'll fold over the paper towel, trapping the mung beans on the inside. So there are the mung beans. I'm going to fold over the paper towel, pat it down a little bit, and you can see the 5 mung beans are kind of trapped on the inside. So I'm going to put this paper towel into a Ziploc sandwich bag. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I've placed the sandwich bag with the mung beans into the now that I've placed the paper towel with the mung beans into the sandwich bag, I'm going to pour the Diet Cola into and on top of the mung beans and the sandwich bag. Again, I'm trying to do this one-handed, so sorry if my fingers are getting in front of the camera. I'm sure it's not the most joyous viewing experience, but doing the best we can with what we have. Okay, there we go. And I can take, with my free hand, I can take my container of Diet Cola and pour it onto the mung beans. And there they are. I can now go ahead and seal the sandwich bag. Seal the sandwich bag. And like the coffee example from a few moments earlier, and like the control example from a few moments earlier, I'm going to put this in a dark location, and about 48 hours from now we'll check its growth. There's one more factor we're going to set up, so I'll be right back. Okay, so the final factor we are going to expose the mung beans to is gin alcohol. So, like we've seen before, here are the 5 mung beans, and you can see they're about a ½ centimeter in size, and I have my container of water and my water dampened paper towel. So I'm going to transfer the 5 mung beans, like you've seen me do before now, several times. I'm going to transfer them to the water dampened paper towel. And like you've seen me do, I'm going to just fold the paper towel over the top, trapping the mung beans on the inside. And I'm going to put this damp paper towel into a sandwich baggie. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've now placed the sandwich bag with the 5 mung beans. I've now placed the paper towel with the 5 mung beans into the sandwich bag. And I'm going to add in my container here, I have a little bit of gin alcohol. And again, I'm going to make the best of the bad situation here. I'm going to try to hold the camera with one hand, and with my free hand, I'm going to try to pour, there we go, the gin alcohol onto the paper towel. Here we go. Okay. And so now I can go ahead and seal the sandwich bag. Make it airtight as best as possible. That way the paper towel does not dry out. And I can go ahead and store this in one of the cupboards in my home, along with the control group and the coffee group and the Diet Cola group. And then in the refrigerator, let's not forget, I also have the cold temperature group. So about every 2 days or every 48 hours, we're going to check for growth. So I'm going to stop for now, and 2 days from now, 48 hours from now, I'll pick up where we've left off. Okay, everybody, so here's where we stand. 2 days have now passed. I've opened up the Ziploc sandwich baggies, taken the mung beans out, and taken various pictures, and we're going to talk about those pictures right now. So here we have, again, this is day 2, 48 hours have passed. I have the control group beans on the left next to the beans exposed to coffee on the right. And the first question I'm going to ask is, are the beans beginning to germinate? Are they beginning to sprout? Let's look at the control beans on the left. You can see, yes, bean number 1, there's a little sprout coming out. Bean number 2, yes, you can see the sprout is about maybe a centimeter, centimeter and a half. Bean number 3, yes, it's germinating. You can see the sprout, again, maybe a centimeter, centimeter and a half. Bean number 4, it's hard to see because the sprout, it's just a little tip, but it's coming upward at the camera, so it's a little hard to see. But yes, it is beginning to sprout and germinate. Same with bean number 5. There's a sprout beginning to form. Well, let's compare that on the right now. Let's look at the beans exposed to coffee. No, this bean is not beginning to germinate, bean number 1. Bean number 2, is it beginning to germinate? No. Bean number 3, is it beginning to germinate or beginning to sprout? And no, no signs of a sprout forming. Bean number 4, no. Bean number 5, yeah, you can see there's a little sprout right there. So 1 out of the 5 coffee beans has begun to germinate, but 5 out of the 5 control beans has begun to germinate. Okay, let's continue. Well, we still have the control beans on the left here, but now I have the beans exposed to a cold temperature. These beans, again, were placed in the refrigerator, and it's been 2 days since they've been set up, so they've been exposed to cold temperature for 2 days. Are they beginning to germinate? You can see it's pretty obvious. There's no sprout forming on bean 1, no sprout forming on bean 2. Bean 3 is showing no signs of germinating. Bean 4 is not germinating. Bean 5 is not germinating. So you can see there's a little bit of a difference here between the beans exposed to a cold temperature and the beans of the control group on the left. Okay, well, here's the next group of beans. These are the beans that were exposed to Diet Cola. And again, 48 hours has passed. Is there signs of germination? Yes, you can see a little sprout forming on bean number 1. Yes, you can see a little sprout forming on bean number 2. Bean number 3, it's hard to see, but there is a little sprout. Again, it's kind of coming upwards at the camera. Bean number 4, no, there's no germination, there's no sprout forming. And bean number 5, no, there's no germination, there's no sprout forming. Okay, well, here's the next group of beans. Again, we have the control beans on the left, but on the right are the 5 mung beans exposed to gin alcohol. And it's been 2 days. 48 hours have passed. And let's see, is there any signs of germination? You can see it's pretty obvious. Bean 1, no signs of germination. There's no sprout forming. Bean 2, no. Bean 3, no. Bean 4, no. Bean 5, no. So we have no signs of germination from the 5 beans exposed to gin alcohol. Okay, so now it's been 4 days. 4 days have passed, and I've reopened the sandwich bags and done another series of observations. And let me show you what we found. Okay, on the left are the 5 mung beans of the control group. These mung beans were basically exposed to water. They were placed and wrapped in a water-dampened paper towel. Now again, the first question I'm going to ask is, are the mung beans at least germinating? Are they beginning to sprout? Bean number 1, from top to bottom, yes, you can see a pretty long sprout of a little over 3 centimeters. Bean number 2, yes, you can see a sprout, maybe 1.5 centimeters. Bean number 3, yes, you can see maybe 3.5 centimeters. Bean number 4, yes, it's beginning to germinate and sprout, maybe 1.5 to 2 centimeters. And at the bottom, even though it's a little curled, yes, you can see a little sprout beginning to form. So all 5 beans of the all 5 beans of the control group have begun to sprout and germinate and are beginning to grow. Now let's compare that with the coffee beans on the right. On the right, have the coffee beans that have been exposed to coffee for 4 days now, are they beginning to germinate? Bean number 1, yes, you can see a little sprout forming, maybe about 1 centimeter in length. Bean number 2, no sprout, no germination. Bean number 3, no. Bean 4, no. Bean 5, no. So you can see a pretty obvious difference between the control group on the left and the coffee group on the right. Well, we still have the control group on the left. 4 days have passed, but these on the right, these are the 5 mung beans exposed to cold temperature. These 5 mung beans were placed in my refrigerator. And let me ask, are they beginning to germinate and sprout? You can see no for all 5 of them. There's no signs of growth and germination. And that's a pretty obvious difference compared to the control beans on the left. Well, again, the control beans are still on the left. Now these beans right here are the beans exposed to diet cola. And so are they beginning to germinate and sprout? Yes. Bean number 1, you can see a sprout beginning to form. Bean number 2, yes, you can see a pretty obvious sprout, maybe a centimeter in size. Bean number 3, it's curled, but yes, you can see a small sprout beginning to form. Bean number 4, yes, there's a small sprout there as well. Now bean number 5, no, there's no sprout beginning to form. So the diet cola beans are beginning to germinate. Now, is their growth equal to the control beans on the left? No, not at all. But they are beginning to germinate. We'll see what happens day 6 in a little bit. And here we have again the control beans on the left, and on the right are the 5 mung beans exposed to gin alcohol. 4 days have passed. Are there signs of germination? You can see it's a pretty obvious no. All the beans of the gin alcohol group are showing no growth, no signs of germination. Pretty obvious difference compared to the control beans on the left. Okay, so now 6 days have passed. Again, after day 4, I put them back into their sandwich bag and back into my storage cupboards. But now 6 days have passed. I've opened up the napkins, the paper towels, and I've taken pictures, and let me show you what I found. Here on the left are the control beans. These are the beans that were just placed on a water-dampened paper towel. Are the mung beans sprouting and germinating? It's pretty obvious, yes. You can see bean number 1, if I were to straighten that thing out, maybe around 8-9 centimeters in length. Bean number 2, yes, it's beginning to germinate, maybe around 4 centimeters in length. Bean 3, yes, it's germinating, maybe around 2.5 centimeters in length. Same for bean number 4, maybe around 2 centimeters in length. And bean number 5, yes, it's sprouting and germinating. If I were to straighten it out, again, maybe 7-8 centimeters in length. Compare that to the coffee beans on the right. Are they beginning to germinate? Nothing from bean number 1, nothing from bean number 2. Yes, you can see bean number 3 maybe about a centimeter and a quarter, but that's about it. Bean number 4, no germination. Bean number 5, no germination. So after 6 days of growth, the coffee group on the right, very different than the control group on the left. Well, we still have the control group on the left here, but now we have the 5 mung beans exposed to cold temperatures. Again, 6 days has passed. So are they beginning to germinate and grow? It's pretty obvious. All 5 of the mung beans have not begun to germinate. There's absolutely no growth. And so that's a pretty obvious difference between the control group on the left. Well, now on the right, we have the 5 mung beans exposed to diet cola. Again, are the beans beginning to germinate? You can see they are, yes. Bean number 1, if I were to straighten it out, maybe 3.5, 4 centimeters. Bean number 2, maybe around 3 to 3.5 centimeters. Bean number 3, yes, maybe 1.5 centimeters. Bean number 4, yes, maybe about 1 centimeter. It's a little curled. And bean number 5 is the smallest one, maybe only a 1/2 centimeter, 3/4 of a centimeter, pretty small, but it is beginning to germinate. Now, when you compare them to the control group on the left, in both circumstances, all 5 mung beans have begun to germinate. But is the growth equal? You can see, I think pretty obviously, the control beans on the left are growing better than the diet cola beans on the right. Okay, so now we have the gin alcoholic beans on the right-hand side. Are they beginning to germinate? Are they beginning to sprout and grow? You can see it's pretty obvious. All 5 beans exposed to gin alcohol are showing no signs of growth after 6 days. And so there we have this little experiment here. And so, of course, there's going to be some analysis questions to answer momentarily. I hope you found this somewhat interesting.